Yeah, so yeah, let's make a start. And the first block of the news is about the .NET and .NET. Let's start from this one. So .NET 7 will reach out end of its support in May 14. So that means if for some reasons you decided to use .NET 7, it wasn't LTS, but you decided to use it, you have like a month and a half to migrate to .NET 8, because after
Or
that it will,
downgrade.
or downgrade. So what would yeah, so that probably would be harder than to upgrade, because you will have to get rid of some features that you may start using in .NET 7. There were some C# language capabilities released. Do we have people who use .NET 7, and if so, why you decided to use .NET 7 and what you are going to do next? Downgrade or upgrade? You can type this in the chat. Right, so that was quite short. Just a reminder, if you're on .NET 7, do not forget to upgrade or downgrade, as Dominic suggested.
Yeah, but same for .NET 6 because it's also reaching the end of life at the end of year. So you have to upgrade from both of them.
That's true, but for .NET 8,
It's
we
end of year.
have, yeah, we have half year more. Right, so the next block is about the upcoming .NET 9. So I know that .NET 8 is not adopted widely, but there is already conversation about the upcoming features in .NET 9. And this one is a GitHub pull request. This is about entity framework and native IoT support. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
So
reading this stuff and really I was trying to visit all links from from this PR, trying to understand what is happening here, what is the
yeah.
purpose of this and how it is work. No success.
Yeah, so what I understood actually is that there is an attempt to bring entity framework, which currently doesn't support at all native IoT compilation because of its dynamic generation nature. So there is an attempt to bring it in some shape to native IoT, and this will be achieved with a combination of source generators, which appeared maybe in .NET 5, if I'm not mistaken, and these interceptors that appeared only in .NET 8. So the interceptors allows you to replace a particular code during the compilation time with another code, so this combination of these two things should help Microsoft to bring in some
Somehow.
shape. Yeah, and there is like a discussion how there is actually the full pass
Yeah, the
here.
author explaining this PR in the very kind of very simple words, because so not for dummies. Like if you are not in the context what is happening, it's so hard to understand what is
Yeah.
the wrapped up variables, what is the development boundary. Poof.
Do we have any other ORMs that we can use nowadays with native IoT, or like just ADONET is the only option if you wanna to do some IoT things?
Remember Dapper?
Dapper, did
Yeah.
they migrate it?
Yeah, I think developer who developers who are working with native IoT, I mean from .NET,
Mm-hmm.
they highlighted that Dapper has migrated. Yeah.
Oh,
To
okay. So Dapper is a
native
nice
IoT.
one.
It's
So
not migrated yet. Developer who is developing Dapper and Redis, both of those developers are working on Microsoft right now. Previously, they worked on Stack Overflow, and
Super.
he published
okay.
preview version of kind of separate library, Dapper IoT. It's not he's not
So,
going to integrate it into Dapper itself, but he's going to expose it through different library. It's still in preview
uh-huh.
in
Well, that
directive development. You can try to use it, and it will not fail most probably, but
mhm.
it's not production ready. Also, there is a kind of micro ORM developed by
Microsoft.
Another guy from ASP.NET Core team.
Damian Edwards. Yeah, so I think this one was just a proof of concept. So it's not like a fully featured ORM.
Yeah, it's not a ORM. It's like a tiny wrapper source generator around
ADONet.
Yeah, and they actually use it inside benchmarks.
Okay.
So. But it's not in preview. They have a major version release from November and already quite some patches.
Oh.
You mean for Dominic?
The Dapper AOT.
For Dapper. Okay. Well, yeah. So if someone had the chance to touch the Dapper AOT, please share your opinion. Some problems that you faced, or everything was just perfect. Okay, so few other things about upcoming .NET 9 changes. Adding built-in support for generating OpenAPI documents from your APIs. So this is a quite long reading article about the situation that in .NET 9 we will have Microsoft supported OpenAPI document generation API. So it will expose OpenAPI specifications based on your source code. But what it will not do, it will not bring you the user interface, Swagger user interface, which we all, I think, use, vast majority use, and really like. I really like it. So there will be no Swagger UI anymore. And there is another reason why, because actually Microsoft is going to stop bringing Swashbuckle ASP.NET Core together with the ASP.NET Core. And here is an explanation from the folks from Microsoft. Actually, the reason is simple. Swashbuckle is not maintained properly. It is not supported very well by the authors, and they are just beyond the expectations of Microsoft. So they started considering this library as a low quality library, and they just don't want to bring you bad experience with this community package.
Why they just do not include this Swagger package into their own ecosystem? Why they just decided to get rid of it and create their own solution? I mean,
that's okay. So there is I think a misunderstanding. So my understanding is that Swagger is a user interface on top of OpenAPI. Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong.
That's right.
So,
but under the hood, it supports a lot of things, not only UI. I mean, Swagger itself.
It's not quite true, because what we understand by Swagger in .NET, usually it's Swashbuckle Swagger library, which provides two parts of functionality. First one is it packages and exposes UI for you, but UI is generated, like it works with OpenAPI definition. And what Swashbuckle library does is, in runtime, when your application starts, it extracts and caches OpenAPI description of your service based on runtime information, on routes, on registered controllers, and all this stuff. So UI is published not by Swashbuckle project. It's commonly used UI library, and it's published by itself. It's not dependent on Swashbuckle.
So will we be able to bring the UI somehow after these changes?
Maybe.
Well, it depends. So current and Swag uses its own implementation for Open API. Well, it has a different library for that. So it's a question if it will migrate to the latest .NET, Microsoft supported one, or they will just abandon the product. Just to give some context on the Swashbuckle, it's not supported for quite some time, because we have 67 open pull requests right now, and the oldest one is from 2020, plenty from 2021. So you get the picture, but it has not been supported for a long time, and there are some security issues and such. So, well, Microsoft definitely cannot ship it as part of .NET.
So that's like a low quality library. Well, it's like, is it? I think it's it's this problem deserves a separate discussion. So what to do with these community packages that became so popular and then authors stopped supporting maintaining it properly? That's like interesting and separate discussion for sure. Okay, but for now I'm really clueless regarding what will happen with the UI, with Swagger UI. So there is, by the way, if you don't know, there is a API Explorer window in Visual Studio that will show you all the endpoints and the kind of Swagger experience, but it's only in Visual Studio. All right. So
well, I hope, but we will end up same as with Newtonsoft. When we created the JSON package at start, it was not too good, but with each .NET releases came closer and closer. Now we even have a default serializer, so it is almost there. So I do hope that after some 2 versions of lame experience, we will get something nice and we will get some normal UI. So I think that after 5 years, we will be happy about this, but not for the next 2 years.
I'd like to not to be in such situation because Newtonsoft to system JSON migration was a pain, and authors were hesitant to accept any feature requests, and even pull requests to improve its functionality until recent.
Yeah,
so
but he's helping
still...
Microsoft to deal with those problems. So it's also nice that Microsoft hired him to write the new JSON library.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next topic, which is introducing the AWS message processing framework for .NET. So this one is really interesting because if you ever tried to work with AWS messaging services like SNS, SQS, you probably know then that is a kind of painful thing. So what was the problem, for example, with SQS? There is even an example of the code. So how it is right now in order to work. Let's say if you are not in a Lambda, Lambdas have a very nice integration with SQS. But if you are not in a Lambda and you wanted to consume the SQS messages, then you need to do something like that. So you need to create SQS client, then you need to create request, and then you need to start polling in an infinite loop, because the way how the SQS client is working, and the way how this SQS service was designed, it is just a HTTP available API, and you need to use a long polling to fetch the messages. So basically you send the request, wait for 10 seconds or so, and if there are any messages, then you consume these messages, process them, then manually remove from the queue, and then do again and again, so in the infinite loop. That's a kind of nasty experience for such a popular service, and like with Lambda, it's much better.
Is it HTTP based? It's not using any MQP or MQTT functionality?
It is HTTP based.
Oh.
It is HTTP based and long polling, like that's quite nasty. So this code, yeah, well, you can definitely put it in a kind of background service if you are in this ASP.NET Core, but it's still like a lot of boilerplate code that theoretically should be hidden in a kind of framework. And this is finally was released by AWS. So AWS improves the .NET support. Maybe for Java that was somehow different. If we have Java folks, please share how it was in Java. So it's still in preview, but anyway, just see the improvements, they are noticeable. So now, instead of having this nasty code, all that you will have to do is to implement a message handler interface that has one method, handleasync, that receives a message envelope, cancellation token, of course, and that's it. So you just handle the message in this handleasync method. That's it. So the framework will take care about polling, removing the messages, and so on. So of course you will have to register this implementation in your TI. So you will have to add this add message handler to tell that this will be the handler. Of course you will have to point the poller. So in this case it's SQS, but I believe it will work with SNS and Event Bridge. Like for the consumer also it's much better. There is a like producer-consumer code example. So if you wanted to publish a particular message, you just read. So even no need to write a publisher implementation. You just add this SQS publisher, specify the message, the queue. That's one is just used to route for routing purposes. And once you need to post a message, you just inject the iMessage publisher and publish a message of the particular type. So very easy, very nice. And the consumer went through it. Very simple. Consumer just handle message.
So guys,
implementation.
Implemented similar things that we had for years in Azure Service Bus SDK. For
yeah. Well, okay. I didn't work with Azure. For AWS, the only proper way to work with the messages was to start from Lambda, then call the API. That was the proper way. While right now we will be able to do that directly. Well, we can do these loops, but that's quite error-prone code. You need. So there is even in this example, it's quite long, right? But there is no exception handling and so on. So that's quite complicated, right? So that's not something that you should take care of if you just wanted to consume a very simple service. It's even called simple.
Yeah, it's not simple.
Queue service. It's not simple.
When I was reading this article related to messaging, my first thought was related to Kinesis. Will they introduce something similar for
Kinesis? There is no library at all. That's
no. Yeah,
nice.
They have Kinesis client library, for .NET.
Yes,
but interesting thing that to work with it, you must to install Java. Because the background service to pull data from Kinesis is working on Java, and
that's crazy. That's really crazy.
It was so surprising, and for doing some similar on .NET, you must to implement your own loop with pulling data from different shards, because in Kinesis we have similar like Kafka partitions in the topic, and it was awful experience with that.
It's awful.
Yeah.
So again, the best way to work with Kinesis from .NET is just to integrate with Lambda, to start with Lambda, consume the messages with Lambda, then call the API if you really need it. Of course, you will pay for Lambda, then you will pay for your service, but so it is what it is right now. So there is no nice integration. Okay, the next block of news is about .NET in large and interesting projects. Let's say like that. So the first one is about Bean team experience with .NET 8 and the impact of dynamic PGO, which is a feature that is enabled by default in .NET 8. So dynamic PGO, which is profile guided optimizations, allow you to optimize your JIT compiled code right on the fly. So there are a few versions of your code produced during the runtime. The first one is in order to execute as fast as possible. I mean, to minimize the start time. Then there are few other versions of the same code may be produced by the dynamic PGO in order to provide you a more optimized way of the C# code, well, not C# EL code compiled into the native code. And this article is interesting because it shows that it's not always right out of the box. So, for example, folks switched to .NET 8 and then experienced some troubles because of the default configurations. And they had a consultancy with .NET team, were able to tweak with some environment variables. And finally, they got 13% of the improvements. So they reduced, well, let's say reduced the number of the amount of CPU consumed by 13%, which is for them, that means, well, because Bing is very highly loaded service, that means for them 13% fewer virtual machines that they will have to spin up. Yeah, that's how they got some savings just by upgrading their services by .NET 8. But again, because of the nature of this service, it's a large service, they had to do some tweaks. So it's not always out. So the conclusion here is not out. It's not always out of the box behavior, the desired behavior for you. So you need to measure, you need to investigate. So it's like the same example I provided previous time with Lambdas, right? Where it appeared that before .NET 9, .NET 8, before .NET 8, Lambdas, .NET in the Lambdas can't properly detect the amount of memory, and because of that, the garbage collector behaves incorrectly. Yeah, sometimes you need to tweak.
Interesting. How do they measure it? I mean, how do they understood the problem directly in the PGO, not in the any other changes introduced in .NET 8? I suppose they did it, incrementally, just enable it, some feature, disable it if it is possible.
No,
And
they consulted with .NET Sim and enabled set of metrics and collected them. And one of those metrics represents internal details of how PGO works, like queue of methods to recompile. And this queue was full, like 300,000 methods to compile. The usage pattern is very specific. They have a lot of libraries to load into memory and a lot of methods to compile on the fly. So in their case, it was a problem because recompilation, like .NET 8 introduced additional recompilation, like not just from tier 0 to tier 1, but from tier 1 to tier 2 with optimization. So it's like from 2 to 3 compilations on the fly.
Of the same method, right?
Yeah, this service is quite high loaded. So
yeah, it's very loaded.
On such level of load, there are different physics law which you
yeah,
consider.
So it's not like something that you may face on vast majority of the projects, but like definitely interesting case. If I'm not mistaken, the Bing team is using a kind of vector-based models. Maybe it's Orleans under the hood, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So then next one. So before we move on to the next project, let's check this one. This is for Redis, guys. Yeah. Change the license from BSD3 to dual license, and that means. So what's the conclusion of this license change?
If you earn money, you have to pay for it.
Yeah. So if you had a project and you had a Redis custom installation of Redis, or maybe like if you used to kind of vendor provided Redis, maybe some wrapper on top of Redis from AWS, then the price will be definitely higher nowadays for you. And if you used it for free, now you will have to pay if you are not a charity project. And that's nasty because Redis was a very popular, like it was in fact standard for caching, right? So why you need any other way of caching if you can use just Redis? Redis was cool. So that's, yeah, I like this picture that illustrates what's the result. Yeah, so they joined the dark side.
But 2 years ago when the Redis lab was had a rebranding and the name was changed to Redis, they said we will support open source. We are not going to make any other changes regarding our license. But nowadays we see that it was a joke.
It's not
yeah, but it was 5 years ago. So
yeah. So 5 years ago, yeah, so they changed their mind during 5 years. Okay, and so we have an answer from Microsoft. Microsoft just recently announced the project whose name is Garnet. It is a high-performance cache store from Microsoft Research. That is a department of Microsoft that is responsible for creating kind of research projects. They are not always production ready. So this one probably production ready. There are some nuances that we are going to discuss right now. So this is a high performance, extensible, modern, secure, and what is really interesting, it is written in a C#, and it is compatible with Redis API. So that means
protocol.
Yeah, you can use Redis libraries to interact with Garnet. So why it's worth to discuss. So it is a high performance application written in the C#. However, there are a lot of discussions, internal discussions in the community about this project. And there is a lot of criticism of this project because yes, it is written in a C#, but if you dive into the project, you will realize it's not the way how we write our applications. So there are a lot of tricks, custom implementations of thread pools, spans. They even have their own garbage collection. They had to do that in order to come up to the high performance. So that's not a idiomatically correct C# code here. So and the question is, was it the correct decision to use a C# for such project and then show the communities that C# screwed up? So you can't write really high performance applications without tons of custom, very strange, very complicated optimizations. So maybe it's better just to stick with the Rust.
Maybe this project is a victim of 2080 approach when guys implemented like with 20% of efforts, 80% of results, and then management came to them and said, okay, let's publish it, let's complete it. And they, okay, we need to introduce a lot of unsafe stuff.
Yeah, so there is tons of unsafe code
to make it on par with C++.
It was released just 3 weeks ago, so we just got the wind of the news and they started releasing it. So looking at what it was created 3 weeks ago, and it already seems as if it existed like half a year ago, I think it's pretty good. And look at the logo.
It is good. Yeah, I mean, so it is an option if you use Redis. Now you can't use, or you don't want to pay for Redis, you can try to switch to Garnet. So maybe it will work for you, maybe not. So that depends on your case. But yeah, so there are a lot of community criticism.
Yeah, it was not an answer to a change of Redis license. It was a coincidence that Redis announced license change and they published this.
But it's also important to mention quickly that there are plenty now of libraries which took over Redis, so the developers won't know where to put new code changes. So it's breaking us. It's a very bad outcome.
Yeah, agree.
Actually, there is a community-based fork of Redis called key value or something like that.
Yeah, but already few forks, not a single one.
We need to wait until all forks die except for one.
Yeah. Okay, so so let's move on to the next project that I really want to highlight. This is called Ruijins. So what is that? It is like, just pay attention on the amount of stars. I just checked. Well, actually, if we take a look at Roslyn, which is a C# compiler, it has 2 times less stars. This one has 31,000 stars, which is very impressive for C# based community project. And what is that? It is an open source Nintendo Switch emulator written in a C#. And why I think this project is really interesting? Well, first of all, it's very popular and written in C#. And in order to write an emulator, they had to solve a lot of questions. For example, how to interact with the hardware, how to interact with the GPU, how to render everything. For example, there is like it's a combination of problems that were solved using the .NET libraries, different libraries. For example, in order to interact with GPU, they used usage the latest build. Okay, latest build. So yeah, basically for interaction with GPU, they had to use OpenTK, Silk.net in order to run even the simulator. Nintendo Switch has ARM-based CPU, so they had to emulate this ARM-based behavior on x64, which is also very nice and complicated thing. They had to deal with inputs with different gamepads. So the UI, the whole UI is rendered with Avalonia UI, which is very nice. So that shows the Avalonia is a very cool project and can be used even for such complicated scenarios. So, you know, it's just really a lot of complicated questions that they had to solve in order to bring the emulator live. Not everything, of course, is supported. There is a compatibility list. So if you ever use, okay, so it doesn't work. Well, obviously, community. Well, I found somewhere in Wikispace the compatibility. There is a list of games supported. Yeah, okay. So that brought me to, well, there is definitely somewhere the list of games supported. So there is a chance for you if you ever played on Nintendo Switch. Now you can try to play it on your PC. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
one thing,
cool.
it is not a hacky software. I mean, you have to own this game. Without a key and image, you'll not be able to, you know, play the game. So it is kind of just simulator, not a hacky.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, you know, I already, so I've tried this software in the past, and first thing that I figure out that I have to have the key. So after this, I just uninstall it.
Okay. Okay, so let's move to the next few topics. So we already started this discussion, and I think it deserves again a separate ones. Maybe you, Volodya, will tell us about your Rust experience sometime in the future. So we've already touched that topic. So if you want a really high performance, then maybe like if you try to implement Redis, something like Redis, then probably C# is not the best choice because you will have to do a lot of unsafe stuff in order to make it faster. So there is another option is to use Rust, and there is even a Microsoft learning path for Rust for C#.NET developers. So this is a really nice materials if you are a .NET developer, but you are considering to use Rust on one of the projects because you need just a high performance and you don't want to deal with this unsafe stuff, custom memory management, thread pools, and so on. So you can just start diving into Rust and compare it with .NET. So Volodya, I know you touched Rust. So do you like it? Do you like it?
From what I see right now, yeah, I like it. It's pretty strict.
So approved by Vladimir. Okay,
oh, yeah.
so
not just by me, but Alexander as well.
Okay, you both like it.
But
And
don't you think that people that use it are kind of rusty?
Rusty, I'd say, not rusty.
I would say that Rust is the language that marvels at its own complexity. So if you want to write something simple, yeah, it works. But if you will deep dive and we'll start using something like generic, if you're familiar with the TypeScript, not generic hell, the same thing you will find in the Rust.
Cool, that's cool. Sounds very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Another article about the same topic about Rust, but from Google. So the previous one was from Microsoft, this one from Google. 2 videos at the end. So this one is about. Okay, so I probably didn't. Okay, so it's this one about writing async await from scratch in C# with Steven Taub. So Steven is a very experienced, very cool guy from Microsoft. He's working on .NET runtime optimizations, and in this video, I mean this video is really deserves your attention, guys. Even if you are experienced developer and you believe you know how async await works, it's still worth to go through this video and explore, because like he starts here from very basic things. He explains differences between concurrency, parallelism, asynchronous implementations. Then it goes to thread pool, task, puts all together. Then it tells, it describes async iterators, yields. So really nice article from very experienced developer from Microsoft. This one is about, so this is ASP.NET Core Community Stand-Up, and you can actually go and watch the video about the upcoming ASP.NET Core features, that what you may expect. You can also go to the roadmap. There is a link to GitHub, but basically, well, nothing really exciting that you should wait in ASP.NET Core 9. Quality improvements, API, distributed caching, data protection, authentication, telemetry, Blazor improvements. So there will be a lot of Blazor improvements. That's cool. They are still trying to invest into Blazor, and I think eventually Blazor will be the project which I'll use in order to write not only internal admin applications, but maybe customer-facing applications as well. Okay, so the last one is about Pole Edition, so resilience and chaos engineering. So this one is cool. So this is a library that you can plug into your project and emulate a kind of chaos engineering with it. So it's based on Microsoft HTTP resilience package, and you can actually emulate like interruptions in your connections. Well, actually, you can configure many things here. Dominic, I know you liked it.
Yeah, so very shortly, just as you used Polly for retries to fix issues, now you can introduce issues. You can tell that every 10th call has to fail due to an HTTP exception or timeout or something. So it's really nice. And I think it's good to test that your application is resilient in those ways and not to find out it in production. Yeah, well, you can find it out in production, but you want to be resilient.
It's one thing when you just brought this retry repeat mechanisms, default resiliency behavior, and completely different way how your application will start behaving in case if something goes wrong. Yeah, will it be consistent from data integrity? Will be reached out across the whole microservices, let's say, and the whole storages, and will you be able to recover from the failures? So this is the way how to test, because that's quite rare. Yeah, let's agree. So that's quite rare situation when you do these tests, and it's cool that we can do that right now with this default resilience packages from Microsoft. Really cool project. All right, so that was it. Any final words, guys?
Don't get rusty.
Be sharp, right? Okay, that's cool. So, and with this final cool and very comprehensive words, we are going to finish our morning coffee. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day and a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice one.